Owen Pence, thank you so much for joining me today on the WNBA on NBC. I appreciate it so much because we have some game twos to discuss. We are in the midst of the WNBA playoffs, the semifinals, and both series are even at 1-1. We had some great games. Well, the second game was a blowout, but I still think it was a good game. So we had some great games yesterday, and we have to get into it. So I'm going to actually start with the Aces and the Fever. I'm going to work our way backwards. So
Yeah.
last night, the Aces took on the Fever at home in game two after dropping the first game, Owen, and sort of allowing the Fever to control that first game. They had no answer for Kelsey Mitchell. Their defense that had been shaky all season kind of like, reared its ugly head. And it was not a good showing. And, it's unfortunate because it was also, that morning, A'ja Wilson was announced and she received her fourth MVP, historic accomplishment. No other player has a fourth MVP. So, but there's also a pattern of A'ja sometimes not playing her best, like after she gets that, recognition. And so maybe it's just a lot going on. I don't know. But the MVP did not look like herself either. So it was actually her worst shooting performance in a playoff game. So I was expecting the turnaround that we saw yesterday. She was going off from the first quarter, and it was just a really, really great game. At least initially, the Fever tried. They had points that they made a run, Owen. But the Aces were determined yesterday. They were gonna let that series be tied up before they head to Indiana. So it was a good showing for the Aces, and especially for outside of A'ja Wilson, Nalissa Smith, who had an amazing game.
Melissa was huge. I just love that A'ja Wilson has won MVP so many times that we have a 4-game sample of how she plays after getting presented the MVP award. That's so ludicrous. We can be like, oh yeah, she doesn't always play that great after winning the MVP, as if that's a common occurrence. This was exactly what I think we all expected the Aces would do after game one. It just was not up to their standards. Becky Hammon was extremely upset with their lack of effort defensively and just communication. To your point, the first 28 games of the season, their defense was poor. And they worked their way up to the 2 seed during that 16-game win streak. And even by doing so, they still finished 8th in defense. So this was never a great defensive team. But when they went on a run, they became way more in sync on that end of the basketball. And I think we saw last night that this team is capable of winning it all if they are locked in defensively. Kelsey Mitchell was not getting the easy looks that she got in game one. It really felt like Lexi Hull was the only player that was consistently hitting shots for them. And the Aces were fine at having Lexi be the only one that's really getting open looks. Everything else they just had to work for. And yeah, Nalissa Smith, I just can't say enough about how good she's been. I've never been more wrong on a trade opinion in my life. I didn't like the trade at the time. We've already discussed this. I've already given you your credit for being so right when I was so wrong. But man, the number 2 overall pick a handful of years ago, playing against the team that drafted her, it's got to feel so sweet for Nalissa. And she's just imposing her will. There was a possession last night where they go to Nalissa on Natasha Howard in the dunker spot, little post up from 10 feet, and she goes to work. And I'm like, they are looking at Natasha Howard, a former defensive player of the year, as a matchup that they want to exploit with Nalissa Smith. That's how well she's playing. When her and A'ja are playing like that, on both ends of the floor, frankly, because A'ja, what she was doing on defense last night, I think was even more impressive than her offense. They're really, really tough to beat.
Very tough to beat, and they're going to have to continue that if they want to go back to Indianapolis, where it's really tough to play in that arena and get back home court, which they've now lost because the Fever went in and did their job. They got blown out, but it doesn't really matter. They did their job, which is to win a game on the road. And so the Aces will have to take, wrap that performance up, put it in a bottle, and take it with them on the road. We didn't get to talk about this series before it started. So did you have any predictions? What are you expecting the outcome to be?
I would have said aces in 4 before the series. But the way Indiana came out in game 1, and I think they posed some matchup problems for
I
the
agree.
aces. Like their quickness is not easy for Las Vegas. I have to give Chelsea Gray also so much credit because she's playing some really inspired basketball, also on both ends of the floor. If there's one thing the Aces struggle with when the other team has the ball, it is quickness. And Kelsey Mitchell is just the quickest, most lethal scorer that you can imagine. And that's a matchup that doesn't line up exactly with Jackie Young's strengths or Chelsea's strengths defensively. I would have said aces in 4 before the series, but them stealing game 1 in Las Vegas and what you said about Indiana's home court advantage, which is so strong, I would probably say at this point that they split the 2 games in Indy and Vegas wins game 5. So I'd probably change my prediction to aces in 5, knowing what we know now. It's a really competitive series, and I think that these teams are closer than they might have appeared entering the series.
Yeah, for sure. They were very clearly trying to stop Kelsey Mitchell last night. And I think if they can continue to contain her, I don't know that they will be able to. But if they can, that's definitely the key to them, winning, the series. And, we shouted out Alyssa, but I just also want to say Dana has been really great for them in both games. And her, her downhill options that she presents for them and just her gravity and opening things up, it did. The Fever seemed to struggle with that a little bit. And you did shout out Chelsea Gray. And I, in the post game yesterday, A'ja pointed out that she thinks she honestly has a case for all defensive team. And I know that's something our friend Nikias has been pushing because during that win streak, Chelsea was having to guard up, and so, she definitely stepped up. I also thought for the minutes that Jewel Lloyd did spend early on Kelsey that she did a decent job, and she was efficient last night, double-digit scoring. They had a number of players in double digits, so it was an all-around team effort. We'll see what happens as they take this on the road, but solid win for the Aces. I love that it was split the first 2 games because usually if you split those first 2 games, that likely means we're going to get a series. So yeah. I think I will agree with you that it'll probably be 5-game series. And yeah, I would lean Aces as well, Aces in 5. All right. But now we had another game. And that was the Minnesota Lynx and the Phoenix Mercury. That was probably the game of the night, to be honest, but it was the earlier game. Man, listen, the Lynx had no business losing that game. They were up 20 points at one point, Owen. They had a 20-point lead. And I get, the 3-point shot is the great equalizer and all these things, and there was a lot of time. You do not give up a 20-point lead in the playoffs. You just don't. And the fact that the Minnesota Lynx allowed the Phoenix Mercury to come back and win this game in overtime, no less, I'm a little surprised by it. Look at, it was midway through the third quarter, Owen. Yep. I love that little flex from Satu, by the way. Okay.
So good. So good. The energy on Phoenix is just contagious. I mean, it really was game of the night. This might have been the game of the playoffs. This was an unbelievable effort. And before that 20-point mark, there was a moment probably a minute and a half into the second half, into the third quarter, where you can see the Mercury start to find it defensively. And as you were saying, sure, 3-point shot is the great equalizer. You need to hit shots to work your way back from a 20-point deficit. But you don't do that without just getting stop after stop after stop. And I have to give major shout out to 2 players who kept them afloat in the start of that third quarter when the game could have just truly gotten away. Catherine Westfeld played one of the best 2-way games I have ever seen from her, and I am a huge 2018 Notre Dame fan, so I am very familiar with how good Cat Westfeld can be in the clutch. She was phenomenal, hit a couple of huge threes, but also was just playing really great defense, which is something she's not really known for. And Monique Okoa-Makani with just a couple stabilizing shots early in that third quarter when they'd started to find it defensively. You could tell the energy was getting better, but the offensive process still wasn't there. And Monique just bailed them out a few times with a few big shots. And then once you really start to work your way back, then it's like, oh, okay, this is the freight train. This is AT, like this is Satu flexing on the crowd. You know, they just started feeling themselves, and it was a remarkable effort. Like truly, no exaggeration. I think one of the greater games I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, big nights. Ultimately, by the end of the night, from Satu and Alyssa. 24 points for Satu, 9 rebounds, 5 three-point makes, and then Alyssa chips in with a almost near triple-double, what she's known for, 19 points, 8 rebounds, 13 assists. Yes, this is what, stars do in these type of games. And even though it was a more quiet night for Ka, she hit a really huge three-pointer that was so key in that game. And we got to show some love to Sammy Whitcomb because she hit the game-tying three that sent that game into overtime. And after that, it was all Mercury and all she wrote. So a really, really very good game, very entertaining game. And I think my favorite part of that game was the chippiness. It was spicy between Alyssa Thomas and Nafisa Collier. And I was like, give it to me. Like, what?
It was so incredibly entertaining. Like, this is everything we want from playoff basketball. And how great is it that in the first year that Diana Taurasi is in retirement and no longer playing in the WNBA, there's another player on the Phoenix Mercury that delights in trash talking just as much as DT did. Like, AT is just picking up right where DT left off and continuing that legacy. The AT Fee matchup, so compelling. And just to quickly also give a shout out to Ka, she rolls her ankle at the end of the third quarter, and you wonder if she's even going to be able to return to the game. She sits out for 5 minutes. That could easily start to swell up. Comes back into the game, basically does not get a touch on offense, is not really a part of the offensive flow, just kind of standing in the corner, but defensively just playing so hard, locking up Courtney Williams, who'd been really, really good to that point, just totally shuts her down in the clutch, and then finally gets one shot at it. Sammy Whitcomb finds her in the corner, great pass, and of course Ka knocks it down because that's what Ka does. And Sammy, you can't say enough. I mean, that shot will go down in history, like especially if these playoffs unfold in a manner that is pleasing to Phoenix. That shot is just it's legendary. The pump fake, the sidestep on Alana Smith, co-defensive player of the year. Like, yeah, they had something special last night. It was really fun to watch.
They did, for sure. So just tell me really quickly before we wrap what your prediction was for this series, because Mercury had to win that game. If they went down 2-0, that's basically a death nail. Like, the series is over. But now that it's 1-1, I feel like we got us a series. So what's your prediction?
We absolutely have a series. I'm going to look so foolish saying this, but I have to say what I feel in my heart. And I'm going Phoenix in 5. Okay. I think that this Phoenix team has been underestimated continually throughout the season. And the one thing that they said entering the series is, like, Minnesota has not seen us fully healthy. Mm-hmm. And there's something about what they have found with this 8-player rotation where every single player contributes in a different way every night. And you saw the way they wore down Nafisa Collier last night. And Fee is so unbelievable. Like, this is not a shot at the Lynx. I could just as easily see the Lynx winning in 5. Lynx could win in 4. Anything is on the table here. But there's something about the way that they wore Nafisa down. And when she took that shot with the buzzer expiring at the end of the fourth quarter, I just expected it to go in because you expect Fee to hit a game winner in that moment. And the shot wasn't even that close. It was a bit of a brick. And I think it's just a testament to how hard Alyssa Thomas makes you work over the course of a full 40 minutes.
For sure.
Or in the case of last night, 45 minutes. And really, this whole team, Natasha Mack, Kat Westfeld, Sammy Whitcomb, it's just whoever's playing Monica Cohen-McConney on defense or hitting shots last night on offense. They really have, 8 players who are contributing in such a variety of ways that it's got a special feeling, and they have the championship experience. They've got the finals MVP 2021 on their team. So I'm going Mercury in 5.
Got you. Well, I have Lynx in 5. We'll see which one of us ends up being right. But Owen, thank you so much, as always, for joining me on the WNBA on NBC. Guys, make sure you tune in and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you do not miss out.